Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. What's going on, everybody? So, it is Christmas week, and if you are somebody who celebrates Christmas, we all know that this is the week where the procrastinators rule the day. And my friends, I am a procrastinator. I should have been done with my Christmas shopping a long time ago. But yet, again, here we are, a couple days out from Christmas, and your boy is still not finished. So, as soon as I leave the studio today, I'm going to have to go and brave the wilds of all of these ridiculous stores and all of the other pissed off procrastinators. I would rather be waterboarded than have to go Christmas shopping today. But what are you going to do, right? Got to do it. One of those things that just has to occur. And I didn't want to do too much online shopping this year through Amazon because I'm tired of giving Jeff Bezos my money, especially considering the transfer of wealth that has occurred. So I'm going to put on my mask and I'm going to go to mom and pop shops, and I am going to shop at locally owned businesses today and finish up the rest of my Christmas shopping. And I'll feel better about it than giving my money to the same people I get on this podcast and rail about every single day. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't ever order anything from Amazon. That's BS. I certainly do. But when it comes to shopping like this for Christmas and stuff like that, I'd much prefer to give my money to local mom and pop shops and do my business with people who are really feeling the pinch right now. And that certainly isn't Jeff Bezos. It certainly isn't Amazon. It's the rest of us on Main Street, right? I mean, I know that they told you help is coming on the way. Help is on the way with their big, gigantic $600 check they're going to give you all. I'm sure you're all over the moon about the measly $600 coming your way after taking a look at the bill and seeing everything everything else that was in it for everywhere else around the planet and every other special interest. But somehow Main Street gets screwed again. Somehow Main Street gets forgotten about again. These people, they love to screw us. They love it. It's like their pastime. You know, when you check people's resumes and you see what they're good at when you're trying to give them a job? Screwing the American public should be put on every single politician's resume. Because while we're getting screwed, meaning me, you, mom and pop stores, these politicians, oh yeah, they're enriching their buddies. When I tell you the greatest transfer of wealth that has ever occurred has recently taken place, that's not hyperbole, folks. That's not me just running my fat bearded yap. These are the facts, and we need to start coming to terms with them. And we need to realize who our enemies truly are. They're not each other, and they're not, your neighbor or somebody you're having a conversation with on Twitter. You guys might disagree, but that's not your enemy. And I feel like we waste a lot of time and a lot of resources doing that kind of thing. So these people who are in charge of this whole entire fiasco, all of these politicians, there is only one thing to do with all of them. And my friends, that most certainly is vote them out. We're going to talk today about Ghislaine Maxwell when it comes to the episode. And Ghislaine Maxwell and her legal team, well, they're back up to their old tricks. Now Maxwell is objecting to another potential witness who wants to end their civil lawsuit. We know that she did the same thing with Annie, and now she's up to her same old tricks once again. How in the hell does she think she's going to stop somebody from dropping a lawsuit against her? In what false reality does this bipedal serpent and her team exist in where they think that this is going to work? The only way that these girls can be paid out from the compensation fund is if they are not suing any of the other people who were involved. And what Maxwell is attempting to do here is she's trying to make it difficult for these girls who were abused by Epstein and in some cases Maxwell herself. Yet she thinks that she has a defensible position here. She thinks that she still controls the narrative and she's in charge of who drops lawsuits and who doesn't. Well, I don't know if she's gotten the memo, but her days of controlling the narrative, yeah, those days are gone. Those days are long over, and the narrative is no longer in the hands of their buddies in the legacy media either. They've been bypassed as well. And that happened because the survivors themselves took to social media. If they didn't take to social media, forget it. They would have buried this story, the legacy media. And then you see all of these people from the legacy media starting podcasts and getting all of this acclaim, and great, have at it. Enjoy your corporate dollars, buddy. Happy for you. But me, personally, I don't listen to any of that shit. I don't listen to all these other new podcasts that are popping up, all of this pre-packaged garbage that we've already went through. I mean, not for nothing, but my life minutes are the most important commodity I have. I'm not going to waste them on hearing someone else tell me about Ghislaine Maxwell. We know who she is. We know what kind of bipedal serpent she is. So I don't have any time for any of that nonsense. I don't have time to, these podcasts that are produced and promoted with corporate interests they don't do it for me. Now, look, I'm not saying that they're not good, right? And I'm not saying that anybody else shouldn't listen to them. But me personally, I don't have the time for it. Unless I'm learning something, unless it's something new or there's some context or there's some meat added to the bone, I just don't have the time for it. So I just keep it moving. And again, I'm sure a lot of these podcasts that are, produced with all the bells and whistles and they're all slick and this, that, and the other thing are great, but just not for me. All right, this article is from ABC News. Headline: Ghislaine Maxwell objects to potential witness attempt to end the civil lawsuit. Lawyers for Maxwell assailed the accuser's claims as baseless. This article was authored by James Hill. For the second time this month, an alleged childhood sex abuse survivor is running into unexpected opposition from Ghislaine Maxwell as the alleged survivor tries to dismiss a civil lawsuit against Maxwell and the estate of deceased sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, new court documents show. The alleged survivor may be a key prosecution witness at a criminal trial of Maxwell. So again, Ghislaine Maxwell is attempting to stop somebody from suing them. How? To stop somebody from not suing them. I don't understand how she thinks she's going to force people to not drop their civil suits, especially when it's one of the triggers that has been put into the actual compensation fund. How does she think that this is going to work? Do her lawyers really believe that this is going to be a winning strategy? Again, they're just throwing a bunch of shit at the wall, hoping some of it sticks. We know that. But this is beyond the pale, in my opinion. This is a step too far. This is just like the first trial with Epstein and trying to malign these girls for their MySpace profiles. Give me a break. Because they might have hooked up with some dudes at 14 or 15. Breaking news. And again, you see the BS. You see the BS here again with Maxwell and her lawyers trying to obfuscate, trying to say that the original allegations were baseless. So it just doesn't make sense, and it falls on deaf ears, and I highly doubt the court is going to play ball with this. Miss Maxwell is clearly trying to gain an unfair advantage over all of these survivors, said Robert Glassman, a lawyer for the anonymous plaintiff who sued the estate and Maxwell in federal court under the pseudonym Jane Doe? I've never had a case in my career where a defendant is blocking the plaintiff's attempt to dismiss the plaintiff's case. And again, look, I'm not Judge Judy, right? I'm not Nancy Grace or one of these other people that does this for a living, sits around and follows trials. I don't know. I'm in the dark for most of it. But I don't think that there is any sort of prevalence of somebody trying to stop somebody else from dismissing a case against them. That can't be something that happens quite often, right? And according to this lawyer, he's never seen it before in 40 years. So I don't even know what to say about this. I mean, how could this even be a thing? How could the court actually take this sort of petition even halfway seriously? If I was a judge and this shit came across my desk in the middle of eating my jelly donut, I'd laugh this thing into oblivion, and then I'd have my clerk send an email to whoever the author was and tell them that they're a knucklehead. And if they ever sent me anything as ridiculous as this again, they're going to have a lot to answer for. That's what I would say as a judge. Doe 40 accepted an offer earlier this month from the Epstein Survivors Compensation Program, an independently operated restitution fund established by the co-executors of Epstein's estate. To finalize the deal, she is required to dismiss all pending litigation against the estate and any former employee of Epstein and his thicket of companies. And that's part of it, right? They've agreed to it. The estate agreed to it. And these girls who are accepting the compensation, they've agreed to it. But Ghislaine Maxwell all of a sudden is playing a role, is trying to throw a stick in the spokes by not accepting the fact that these girls want to dismiss their civil complaints against her. It's all posturing to try and give her more of a tenable, defensive position in her criminal case. That's what this is all about. All of this maneuvering is about the criminal case. And that's what they're attempting to do here. They're trying to make sure that Ghislaine Maxwell drags her feet. They're trying to make sure they slow things down, and they're certainly going to try and make it difficult on whoever that they possibly can who has been accepted to this fund. The estate would not settle the case without Maxwell being part of it, Glassman said. Maxwell, 58, has asserted in court filings and testimony in various civil cases that she worked for Epstein from 1999 until at least 2006, staffing and managing his various properties in the U.S. and Europe. She is denied under oath that she has ever hired underage girls to work for Epstein. Yeah, and we all know what her word is worth, right? Her word is worth diddly squat, nada, squangeal, nothing. So why would anyone listen to what she has to say? Obviously, prosecutors think she lied during this deposition, or else she wouldn't be slapped with perjury charges. But here we are. Doe and the estate's lawyers have agreed to end the litigation, but Maxwell's legal team is objecting, just as they did earlier this month when Annie Farmer, another probable criminal trial witness, tried to dismiss her lawsuit after reaching a deal with the victims program. And the situation with Annie is maddening as hell, right? Enough is enough. This girl has suffered more than enough. The Farmer family has suffered more than enough. Let Annie get her compensation and let her move on with her damn life. She deserves that much. Annie is one of the sweetest people you would ever meet. She wants to just move on with her life, I'm sure, and try and put this in the past. And once again, Ghislaine Maxwell is standing in the way of that. I hope that the court comes down on her like a piano falling out of an 80-story window in one of those cartoons. I hope they drop the hammer on her and they laugh all of her requests out of court. In both cases, Maxwell's lawyers have argued that they require unredacted copies of the agreements the woman reached with the program, including the amount of the settlement, and documented proof that Maxwell is released from any future liability before they'll agree to end the lawsuits. Why should Annie or Doe have to show what their compensation is to these people? Why? So they can weaponize it come criminal trial time and say it was just a money grab? Nice try, all right? But if some bearded moron like me can see it coming down the pipe, you don't think that Annie's lawyers are onto you? You don't think that they're going to be ready for a street fight? Oh, they're going to be ready for a street fight, my friends. And if Maxwell and her lawyers think that they're going to weaponize this information, they are in for just another L. I'm sure they're getting used to it by now because they're stacking those L's like Scrooge McDuck stacks dollars, but here we are. But in Doe's case, Maxwell's advocates went even further, asking the court to require Doe to pay Maxwell's legal costs for defending the civil suit and, in a letter to the court late Tuesday, assailing the alleged survivor's credibility in the most direct way since Maxwell's arrest in July. Absolutely atrocious. All right? And anyone defending Maxwell, Basham, or Geraldo Riviera, or I kept my underpants on Dershowitz is also a scumbag in my opinion. Any legal team that comes out and attacks survivors in a manner that Maxwell's team is attacking them is just otherworldly. Save that shit for the criminal trial and for cross-examination. This is a losing strategy here, folks, and I'm telling you now. They already have the public opinion swayed against them, and going this route is just not a good idea. And whoever is advising Maxwell that this is a good idea, I hope they keep the position that they have right now because they're obviously adult. Doe improperly brought this baseless civil suit against Miss Maxwell, making claims that are decades old without a shred of documentary or corroborative support. Miss Maxwell absolutely denies plaintiffs' claims against her. They are false, wrote Laura Menninger, an attorney who represents Maxwell in both civil and criminal cases. Miss Colorado lawyer, huh? Representing good old Ghislaine. Weren't you the one who told us that you didn't know where she was when people were looking for her? Sure, I'm sure you know where she is when it's time to collect that bill, huh? I'm sure that you had no problem tracking her down then, Mrs. Menninger. The conflict over the resolution of Doe's lawsuit comes as Maxwell is awaiting a decision from a federal judge on her renewed effort to be released from jail pending trial, which is scheduled to begin in July of 2021. Maxwell has proposed a $28.5 million bail package, secured primarily by her assets combined with those of her previously undisclosed husband, Mr. Neckbeard himself, Scott Borgerson. Mr. Cargo Metric. Your cousin from Boston. Another absolute buffoon. Another person who had it all, folks. All the privilege, all the dough, had life by the goyons. Instead, destroys his family, runs off with the bipedal serpent, and the rest, as they say, is history. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison and stands accused of aiding and abetting one of the worst sexual predators of our time. She is trying to pay her way out of prison by putting up over $28 million. Glassman, Doe's attorney, told ABC News after reviewing Maxwell's letter Tuesday night. Now, she is inexplicably asking the judge to make a child rape victim pay for her attorney fees and costs? It's unconscionable and sad, said Glassman, a trial lawyer at the California firm Panish, Shea & Boyle. He's 100% right, trying to make this girl pay for her legal fees? For Ghislaine Maxwell's legal fees? You must have done and fallen and hit your head. On what alternate universe does this sound like it's going to work? On what planet is this okay? Doe shouldn't have to pay one single dollar ever to somebody like Ghislaine Maxwell. Furthermore, let Ghislaine Maxwell dig into her bail fund and pay for her lawyers. Kidding me right now with this nonsense? Trying to make this girl pay for her legal fees. You better, oh boy, I'll tell you. Doe alleged in her lawsuit, which was filed 6 months before Maxwell's arrest, that she was first approached by Epstein and Maxwell in 1994 when she was just 13 at a summer arts camp in Michigan. Now we know Epstein had a footprint at Interlochen, whatever. He had a cabin there and he had access. And that is where this girl says that she was approached and the grooming began. She alleged in her complaint that she was sexually abused over several years by Epstein in his homes in Florida, New York, and New Mexico, and that she would often travel to those locations with Epstein and Maxwell on one of Epstein's private jets. Again, another girl who says she was abused in New Mexico and nothing going on there. Nothing. Oh, some people out there protesting, making pretend and LARPing like they saw Jeffrey Epstein, as if that's helpful. But in reality, there's nothing going on out there, folks. No raids, nobody kicking in any doors, no concurrent investigations, none of that shit. Makes you wonder why. Me personally, New Mexico is as corrupt could be when it comes to their politicians and the prosecutors, etc., etc. There should be a severe investigation into this place. If I was the Attorney General of New Mexico, not only would I get a warrant put onto the books, I would go with the team that's raiding the place. Because this shit has to end. This girl is saying she's assaulted in New Mexico, then why is there only a case in New York? And why is there only something going on in the Virgin Islands? Their excuse will be, well, it's a federal case. It's all encumbered. No, okay? The more charges, federal and locally, that are thrown against these people, the more chance they have to go to prison forever. Pretty simple. Epstein's system of abuse was facilitated in large part by his co-conspirator and accomplice, Maxwell, who helped supply him with a steady stream of young and vulnerable girls, the complaint said. Maxwell has denied the allegations in Doe's complaint. The allegations in Doe's civil case overlap substantially with those of victim 1 in the criminal indictment. Prosecutors allege Maxwell groomed 3 minor girls to be abused by Epstein between 1994 and 1997 and, in some instances, participated in the abuse herself. Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all the charges. It definitely overlaps with victim number 1, the story about Interlochen and, the school, how she was groomed, how Epstein and Maxwell normalize things, and it's unfortunately the same tale that we have heard told over and over again in this case. Of more than 30 women who brought legal claims against Epstein's estate following his death last year, Doe was the only accuser who had declined to voluntarily put her lawsuit on hold to pursue the alternative resolution via the compensation program, arguing in court filings that a stay would simply delay long overdue justice. And again, these gals reserve the right, in my opinion, to do whatever they want. If they want to take money from the fund, then they should do that, and it's nobody's business. If they want to go all the way to the end and sue everybody in different cases in a civil manner, that is also their prerogative. But Doe's lawsuit was placed on hold by a magistrate judge in September after Maxwell argued that the overlap between the civil and criminal cases would result in Maxwell being forced to choose between her constitutional right to remain silent and defending herself against the claims in the civil case. Federal prosecutors also advocated for a stay of the civil case, citing a significant risk that proceeding with the case would adversely affect the ongoing criminal prosecution against Maxwell. And at the time, I said the same thing that I'm going to say right now. The criminal case supersedes this civil case. The civil case isn't going anywhere, right? So if Maxwell is found guilty, then the civil charges that get reignited it's a slam dunk at that point. So while you have to wait a little longer, obviously, I'm pretty confident that if Maxwell is convicted, that your case automatically becomes a slam dunk then. The government did not confirm in its court filings that Doe is one of the alleged survivors in the criminal case, and Doe's attorney has declined to comment on the parallels. But in her Tuesday letter to the court, Menninger directly addressed the commonalities, writing that Maxwell is currently under indictment based on the same allegations as were made by the plaintiff in this case. So they definitely do overlap, right? Menninger, like a broken clock, is right every now and then as well. And there's definitely overlap here. It's obvious that Doe 1 is the same person that we're talking about here. But I don't really see the significance in that one way or the other. I don't, if these girls don't want to give us their names, then they don't have to. That's part of the deal. At a hearing last week in Annie Farmer's case, U.S. Magistrate Judge Deborah Freeman declined Maxwell's request to be provided with details of Farmer's monetary award from the estate. But she directed the parties to work out a resolution themselves to end the lawsuit to everyone's satisfaction, calling the dispute a ridiculous problem. 100%. And a problem, mind you, that I'm sure Doe number 1 or Annie wants to deal with. Sign off on it, let these girls get paid, let them celebrate their Christmas, and let's all move on. It's sort of beyond me how you can't work this out. It seems like so much of a non-issue, Freeman said, but a week later, there's no indication in the court record that the dispute has been resolved. Farmer has publicly identified herself as one of the 3 alleged survivors in the criminal indictment of Maxwell. And again, Annie has been really courageous here, and she's taken the lead, and she has come out swinging against Maxwell and her abusers. And if these people think that Annie's going to be cowed or backed up or scared into silence, they have no idea who they are dealing with. Doe's case has a conference scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. Glassman is hoping that the court will side with his client, dismiss the case, and reject the demands that Doe pay Maxwell's legal fees. There's no good faith reason in fact or law for Maxwell to be doing this, Glassman said. I agree. No reason at all, except she wants to throw a stick in the spoke. She wants to be a pain in the ass, right? And she's doing a good job of it. Must be nice to have so much money that you can just burn it, basically, with all of these lame-ass, weak strategies. Maxwell had no role in the development of the compensation fund by the estate, and she is not consulted on any of its operations or decisions. But attorneys for the estate have said in court filings that the program requires participants to sign a broad release of former Epstein employees like Maxwell for finality and to prevent alleged survivors from double-dipping with more lawsuits after reaching a settlement with the estate. Now, remember when Maxwell was using LG as a mouthpiece in the media? Having her pass out disinformation, blah, 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 blah. And remember I was talking about how there was some pretty pointed comments made by Ghislaine Maxwell directed at Indike and Khan? So what? The cynic in me doesn't think that the parameter of Maxwell not getting sued is because Indike and Khan are fearful of what Maxwell has on them? Look, again, I don't have direct evidence of that, right? But it definitely does connect and line up with everything that we know of these people. And the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is attempting to stop this, the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell is attempting to once again slow down the gears of justice is downright laughable. Because I have a funny feeling that this attempt, like the ones previously, are going to be roundly rejected. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI @protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. And to everybody who has donated to the podcast and helped support the podcast and shared it with your friends and spent your most important commodity with me, your time, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you, and I will be back later on, and we will pick up where we left off.